Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're swimming.
That's right. A nice summertime lesson for everyone.
Summertime lesson.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to be talking about swimming and, well, it's a very popular sport, right?
Yeah, so this is another lesson in our sports series.
In our sports series. Okay. So why don't we preview some of the language we'll find in the dialogue?
Vocabulary preview.
All right, we have two words to look at here. The first word is sailing.
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 Well, this is the verb to sail, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sailing is traveling in a boat.
In a boat with no engine.
Right, so you must use the wind to push you forward.
Exactly. That's a sailboat.
Yes.
Okay, so sailing.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's take a look at our other word. Anchor.
Another boat word here.
Yeah.
Anchor.
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 Now, it's spelled Anchor.
Right.
But you don't pronounce the CH as you normally would, right?
Another one of these really difficult to spell English words.
Right. So you don't say anchor, you would say anchor.
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 So the anchor is a verb and a noun.
That's right. Well, when anchor is used as a noun, it means the hook that you throw over the boat into the water, and it keeps you staying in the same place.
Okay. But the verb to anchor,
Yes.
what does it mean?
To do that.
To do that, right? So to throw the anchor into the water, you would just say to anchor the boat.
Exactly. To keep it in the same place.
Okay. Great words related to sailing. But now let's listen to our dialogue for the first time. What's happening here, Erica?
Well, we've got two friends here who are sailing in their boat, and they decide to take a swim.
Let's see what happens.
This is such a beautiful day. Great day for sailing.
It sure is. The water looks so nice. Anchor the boat for a little while. I'm going to take a dip.
Why are you doggy paddling? I taught you how to swim. Do your breaststroke.
I get too tired. I'll just backstroke. It's easier.
Try kicking your legs more. That's good. Don't go out too far.
It's fine. Jump in.
Kathy, get back here. I see a shark.
Ah! Help me! Help! Bring the boat closer. The shark is coming straight towards me.
It's right under you. Kathy!
All right, so a shark attack.
I know. This is my worst fear when swimming.
Really? In the ocean, right?
Yeah. Well, also in the lake, but
No sharks in lakes.
I know, but I'm still afraid of them.
All right, so don't worry about it. I'm sure the girl is okay. It's probably not a shark. Maybe it was a dolphin.
Yeah, or maybe she's going to punch the shark in the face and she'll escape.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the words that we saw in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
We have three excellent swimming words for you. The first one is doggy paddling.
Doggy paddling.
Doggy paddling.
So, doggy paddling. It's not really a proper way of swimming, right?
No, you don't see this in the Olympics.
So, if you've ever seen a dog swim, that's why they call it doggy paddling.
Right, you're sort of moving your hands quickly in front of you.
And your legs are all over the place.
Yeah.
And you're basically not really swimming. You're just trying to stay afloat. You're
Yes.
trying not to drown.
Trying not to sink.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so doggy paddling.
Again, this can be a noun or a verb. The doggy paddle,
Mm-hmm.
this swimming style, or doggy paddling, the verb.
Okay, interesting. All right, let's take a look at our second swimming style.
Breaststroke.
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 The breaststroke.
It's
How is
like-
this one?
Well, it's sort of like swimming like a frog.
So you have your legs that are similar to like a frog, right?
Yeah.
And what are your hands doing?
Your hands are moving in front of you together,
Mm-hmm.
then out towards the side.
Okay. So
So-
you're kind of doing like circles,
Yeah, half circles.
half circles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, breaststroke.
Yeah.
But you get kind of tired when you swim like this, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, let's take a look at our third word. Backstroke.
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 So this one's pretty easy. Backstroke, you're
Lying on your back
lying on your back.
in the water.
Mm-hmm. And you're kicking your feet as well.
Yep.
But what are your hands doing?
They're going back behind you. See, I'm doing it now. Can you see?
All right. If you guys could be here in the studio, you would see Erica doing her backstroke.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's listen to this dialogue again, and then we'll come back and look at some great phrases.
This is such a beautiful day. Great day for sailing.
It sure is. The water looks so nice. Anchor the boat for a little while. I'm going to take a dip.
Why are you doggy paddling? I taught you how to swim. Do your breaststroke.
I get too tired. I'll just backstroke. It's easier.
Try kicking your legs more. That's good. Don't go out too far.
It's fine. Jump in.
Kathy, get back here. I see a shark.
Ah! Help me! Help! Bring the boat closer! The shark is coming straight towards me!
It's right under you. Kathy!
Okay, so we have some really good phrases related to swimming and water.
Yep.
Okay, let's take a look at these in Fluency Builder.
Fluency builder.
All right, the first one. I love this phrase. Take a dip.
Take a dip.
Take a dip.
So if I say I'm going to take a dip,
You're going to have a quick swim.
a quick swim.
Yep.
So you can take a dip in the pool,
Yep.
in the lake,
In the ocean.
in the ocean, even in your bathtub, right?
No.
No?
No, it's just for swimming. Unless your bathtub is really, really, really big.
All right, so not for the bathtub, but for swimming.
Yep.
Okay. Now let's take a look at our second phrase. For a little while.
For a little while.
For a little while.
For a little while.
This is really common. I use this a lot.
Yeah, me too. I probably use it 500 times a day.
Okay, so let's listen to some examples with for a little while, and then we'll come back and explain it.
Example 1.
I'm tired. I'm just going to sit down for a little while.
Example 2.
It will only hurt for a little while.
Example 3.
Do you want to play tennis for a little while?
So it means for a short time.
For a short time. And you can change it, right? You can say, oh, I'm going to play for a little while.
Yeah. Or I'm going to sleep for a little while.
Uh-huh. For a short time.
Yep. All right. So if learners use this phrase, I find it sounds really, really great because it's not something that students normally use.
Yeah, I guess a student wouldn't really use this phrase normally.
Yeah. So guys, use it because you'll sound awesome.
Yeah, you'll sound really, really fluent. Okay, and let's take a look at our last phrase. Straight towards.
Straight towards.
Straight towards me.
Straight towards.
Okay, so straight means directly.
Right. In a line.
In a line, not going anywhere else, but
Yeah,
directly.
not moving side to side.
And towards is in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
So the shark was coming straight towards me. It's coming directly at me.
Moving in a line and not moving side to side.
Okay. So can you give me another example of how you would use straight towards?
Watch out! There's a car coming straight towards you.
Okay. Directly towards you.
Yeah. Or maybe when I get home from work, I go straight towards the fridge.
Really?
Yes.
I believe this. All right, so straight towards, directly. Okay, so we've looked at a lot of great words, really good phrases. Let's listen to this dialogue one last time, and then we'll come back. And Eric is going to tell us a really great story about boat.
This is such a beautiful day. Great day for sailing.
It sure is. The water looks so nice. Anchor the boat for a little while. I'm going to take a dip.
Why are you doggy paddling? I taught you how to swim. Do your breaststroke.
I get too tired. I'll just backstroke. It's easier.
Try kicking your legs more. That's good. Don't go out too far.
It's fine. Jump in.
Kathy, Get back here! I see a shark!
Help me! Help! Bring the boat closer! The shark is coming straight towards me!
It's right under you! Kathy!
All right. Well, Marco, I was telling you that I used to spend every summer on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And my family had a really small house on a small island.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousins had another small house on another small island.
Okay.
So our families are really close, and we used to go to one house for dinner one night and the other house to dinner
Mm-hmm.
the next night. So everyone was over at my cousin's house, except for my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was thinking, okay, it's late. Maybe I better go pick up my wife and see what's going on. So he goes into the boat. It's dark.
Okay.
There's no light on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
He's driving straight towards the island when suddenly my cousin in his boat drives directly into my grandfather.
So they crashed.
They crashed.
Two boats crashed in the lake.
Yeah, and then my grandfather's boat flipped over. It turned upside down.
Wow.
And he fell in the water.
But he was okay, right?
Yeah, he was okay, but you know what? He was really angry about this.
And the boat?
The boat stayed in the water, and you know the engine fell down to the bottom.
Oh.
So we had to go the next morning to get the boat, and we actually had to hire some scuba divers to go to the bottom of the lake to get the engine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine your grandpa was pretty angry.
Yeah, he tells the story
Every year.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I've got a million of these crazy lake stories because my family.
It always happens.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, do you have any crazy stories or any story related to boats or to swimming
Or to shark attacks.
or shark attacks?
Yeah.
So come to our website, englishpod.com. Leave your stories, share with us. And also, if you have any doubts or questions, Erica and I are always there to answer.
Well, we're out of time for this lesson, but until next time,
Bye.
goodbye.
Second paragraph in the dialogue.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we are exploring something completely different.
Yeah.
We're taking a look at the world of swimming and boating.
Oh, wow.
And what's interesting is that we're actually pulling all of this information from an English language learning podcast.
Really?
Yeah. And you might be thinking, well, that seems a little strange. But it's actually chock full of vocabulary that's useful for anyone.
Huh.
Whether you consider yourself a landlubber or you spend most of your time on the water.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a great resource, and we're going to be looking at it today.
Oh.
And, it's not just dry definitions.
You're right.
This podcast actually weaves all vocabulary into a real-life story.
Oh, neat.
A little bit of a cautionary tale, actually, but we'll get to that later first. Let's start with some basics.
Okay, sounds good.
So,
The podcast starts with sailing and anchoring.
okay.
Two terms that are really essential for anyone who wants to understand how boats work, especially those without an engine.
Right. And they make a point of clarifying the pronunciation of anchor. It's not anchor.
Right.
It's A-G-N,
Right.
with that CH being silent.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it's a small detail,
Yeah,
but it can make a big difference when you're trying to sound like you know what you're talking about.
for sure.
Yeah. And the podcast also does a good job of explaining how sailing actually works.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about floating along. It's about harnessing the wind to propel the boat forward.
Right, like a dance between the sailor, the boat, and the wind.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
all working in harmony.
Yeah, and that's where the anchor comes in, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a pause button,
Uh-huh.
allowing the boat to stay in one place even when the wind is pushing it.
Precisely. And the podcast highlights how important it is to understand not just the word anchor, as a noun, the physical object,
Right.
but also as a verb, the act of dropping the anchor to secure the boat.
Okay, so we've covered sailing and anchoring now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's dive into the swimming portion of this deep dive. The podcast focuses on 3 specific swimming styles: doggy paddle, breaststroke, and backstroke.
Okay.
Now, I'll admit the doggy paddle always makes me chuckle.
Yeah.
It's so...
It's certainly the most instinctive stroke, I think, mimicking the way dogs swim.
Yeah.
It's all about staying afloat rather than moving efficiently through the water. You're not going to win any races with the doggy paddle, but it's a good starting point for beginners, I guess.
For sure. And it's definitely the stroke of choice for anyone who just wants to splash around and have fun.
Right.
But for those who want to swim with a bit more grace and power, the podcast introduces the breaststroke.
Ah, yes, the breaststroke.
Yeah.
It's an interesting stroke.
Yeah?
It involves a synchronized movement of arms and legs,
Mhm.
kind of like a frog kicking outwards, you know?
Yeah.
A little bit. It's a more complex technique requiring coordination and timing,
Right.
but it's a very efficient way to move through the water.
I actually tried to demonstrate the breaststroke while we were recording this.
Oh, really?
But I don't think I got it quite right. I think I need a bit more practice.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
And finally, we have the backstroke, which is often a favorite among swimmers because it allows you to kind of relax and enjoy the view of the sky, you know, while you're gliding through the water.
Yeah, the backstroke is definitely my go-to. It's all about long, sweeping arm movements while lying on your back. It's less about power, more about smooth, rhythmic motion.
And the podcast points out that even though these strokes are being taught in the context of English language learning, you know,
Right.
they're universally understood. Someone who speaks a completely different language
Yeah.
could watch you swim the breaststroke and instantly recognize what you're doing.
That's what's so cool about these physical activities.
Mhm.
You know, they transcend language barriers. We can communicate through movement and shared experiences, even if we don't speak the same language.
Exactly. It's a reminder that communication goes beyond words.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, beyond the specific swimming techniques, the podcast also throws in some conversational phrases that are useful for anyone who wants to sound more natural when talking about water activity.
Oh, yes, they introduced the phrase, take a dip, which is a casual way of saying, go for a swim.
Right.
Perfect for those spontaneous moments when you just want to cool off in the water.
A great example of how idioms and colloquialisms can add color and nuance to your language.
Yeah.
You know, instead of saying, I'm going to go swimming, which sounds a bit formal,
Yeah.
you can say, I'm going to take a dip, which sounds much more relaxed and natural.
Yeah, it's those little touches that make you sound like a native speaker.
Exactly.
Another phrase they highlight is for a little while, which is a handy way of indicating a short period of time. You could say, I'm going to swim for a little while, or let's sail for a little while. It's a versatile phrase that can be used in a variety of contexts.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all about getting comfortable with those everyday phrases that native speakers use so effortlessly. It's those subtle elements of language that can really boost your fluency and confidence.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've covered some essential swimming and boating vocabulary and even learned some conversational phrases.
Right.
But now it's time to get to the heart of this English learning podcast, the story. And let me tell you, it's a wild one.
Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of story could possibly combine swimming, boating, and English language learning? This sounds intriguing.
Well, imagine this. Two families are spending their summer on a beautiful lake, their houses perched on small islands.
Okay.
They often visit each other for dinner, using their boats to navigate between the islands. You know,
Yeah.
it's idyllic, right?
Sounds like the perfect summer getaway, peaceful, scenic, a chance to escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, that's where the story takes a turn. One evening, the grandfather decides to go pick up his wife from the other island. It's getting dark, and his boat, for some reason, has no lights.
Hold on, no lights. That's a recipe for disaster, especially on a lake with other boats around.
Exactly, and that's where things go hilariously wrong. As the grandfather is heading towards the island in the darkness, his cousin, who was also out on the lake, crashes right into him.
Oh no, it sounds terrifying. Is everyone all right?
Don't worry, the grandfather is fine, but his boat, not so much the impact, flipped it over, sending the grandfather tumbling into the water.
Wow, what a story. I can just imagine the chaos and confusion in that moment, the darkness, the sudden crash, the grandfather being thrown into the lake. It must have been quite a shock.
It certainly was, but it gets even better. Remember, this is a deep dive, so we're going beyond the surface.
I can't wait to hear what happened next.
Well, the boat didn't just capsize, it sank. And to top it off, the engine ended up at the bottom of the lake. They had to hire scuba divers to retrieve it the next day.
Scuba divers on a lake rescue mission, that's not something you hear every day. What a turn of events. And the grandfather, how did he react to all of this?
Well, he was fine physically, but let's just say he wasn't too happy about the whole ordeal, and the best part. He retells this story every year, making it a legendary tale among the family.
That's the thing about stories. Even mishaps can become cherished memories over time. It's a reminder that life is full of surprises, and sometimes those unexpected moments are the ones we remember most vividly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what stands out to you so far, anything that's piqued your interest.
Well, I'm intrigued by the story itself. The podcast uses it as a way to teach vocabulary and grammar, but it also provides a glimpse into family dynamics, the humor they find in everyday situations, and how they use storytelling to bond. It's more than just a language lesson, it's a cultural snapshot.
I completely agree, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just learning words and phrases, we're getting a glimpse into a different world, a different way of life.
It's a reminder that language is a powerful tool for connection, and understanding it allows us to access other cultures, other perspectives, and enrich our own lives through those experiences.
Exactly. But we're not done yet. We've only just scratched the surface of this story. There's more to uncover, more to learn, and more to laugh about. Okay. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break.
Okay.
All right, see you in a bit.
It's funny how a simple boating mishap can turn into such a big story.
Yeah, it really is.
It seems like the grandfather retells this every year.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Which just speaks to our need to connect with others through these shared experiences, you know?
Yeah.
Especially those that involve a little humor and a little drama.
Right, exactly. And it becomes like a family legend. You know, passed down through generations, each retelling, you know, adds a new layer of embellishment. And
Right.
But beyond the humor, there's also like a little safety lesson embedded in there.
Absolutely. The fact that the grandfather's boat had no lights
Right.
is a crucial detail, you know?
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of being safe, you know, especially when you're out on the water at night.
Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't even mention life jackets in the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's always a good idea to wear one, no matter how experienced a swimmer you are.
You're right. That's an important point. Life jackets can be the difference between, you know, a minor mishap and a tragedy,
Yeah.
especially in these unexpected situations,
Yeah.
like a sudden collision.
Right, and it's not just about knowing how to swim.
Mm-hmm.
Even strong swimmers can be disoriented or injured in an accident, you know, making it really difficult to stay afloat.
Exactly. It's always better to err on the side of caution when it comes to water safety.
Right.
But let's go back to the language learning aspect for a moment.
Okay.
The podcast uses this story to teach a variety of vocabulary and grammar points. Did you notice how they integrated phrases like take a dip
Yeah.
and for a little while
Yeah.
seamlessly into the narrative?
Yes. It's brilliant how they make the language come alive through the story. Instead of just listing definitions, they show how these words and phrases are used in a natural conversational context.
Right. It's a much more engaging way to learn.
For sure.
You're not just memorizing words. You're absorbing them through this compelling story, you know, which makes them more likely to stick in your memory.
And the story also provides a glimpse into these little cultural nuances.
Yeah.
For example, they joke about there being a shark in the lake,
Right.
even though it's clearly an exaggeration.
Of course.
You know, it tells us something about their cultural understanding of sharks, like
Yeah.
this mix of fear and fascination and humor.
It's those little details that make language learning so much more than just grammar rules and vocabulary lists.
Right.
It's about understanding the culture, the humor, the way people think and express themselves.
Yeah. It's like cracking a code, unlocking this whole new way of seeing the world.
Right.
But I have to admit, I'm a bit curious about something.
Yeah. What's that?
The podcast focuses on these basic swimming styles like the doggy paddle and the backstroke.
Right.
Do you think they're missing an opportunity to delve into more advanced techniques?
That's an interesting point. They could have introduced something like the crawl stroke, which is more challenging but also more efficient for those longer distances.
Yeah, or even like diving techniques.
Yeah.
Imagine learning how to describe like a perfect swan dive
Right.
in another language.
Yeah.
That would be pretty impressive.
It's a trade-off, you know? They're trying to keep the language accessible to learners at all levels.
Right.
But you're right, introducing a few more advanced terms could add another layer of depth to the lesson.
Yeah, maybe that's something that we could explore in a future deep dive.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, we could take a closer look at the biomechanics of swimming, the different types of strokes and how they're used in competitive swimming.
Now, that would be a fascinating deep dive.
Yeah, for sure.
We could even analyze, you know, the physics of buoyancy and drag and how swimmers use their bodies to move efficiently through the water.
Speaking of efficiency,
Yes.
I'm curious about your thoughts on sailing. Do you think it's a skill that everyone should learn?
It's certainly a valuable skill to have, both practically and metaphorically. Yeah.
Sailing teaches you about wind weather navigation and the importance of patience and adaptability. It's a metaphor for life itself, you know, navigating unpredictable waters,
Right.
adjusting your course as needed.
I love that analogy. It's not always about brute force. Sometimes it's about working with the elements, finding the right angle, the right moment to make your move. And there's a certain sense of freedom that comes with being out on the open water, relying on your own skills and knowledge to guide you.
It's a sense of self-reliance and connection with nature that's hard to find in our modern world.
Yeah, for sure.
But even if you never set foot on a sailboat, the principles of sailing can be applied to other areas of life.
I think that the story that we've been discussing highlights that perfectly. The grandfather, despite his mishap, shows resilience, humor, and a willingness to learn from his mistakes.
Yeah.
Those are qualities that can help us navigate any challenge, whether it's on the water or in everyday life. This whole conversation has reminded me of that famous quote, "Smooth seas never made a skilled sailor."
Right.
We learn and grow the most from these unexpected challenges, these moments that force us to think on our feet and adapt to new situations.
And isn't that what learning is all about? Embracing the unknown, stretching our boundaries, and discovering these new perspectives.
Absolutely. And sometimes those discoveries come from the most unexpected sources.
Yeah.
Like an English language learning podcast about swimming and boating.
Exactly. You never know where your next adventure will lead you or what valuable lessons you might learn along the way. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
You said that sailing is like a metaphor for life.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
It is. When you're out there on the water sailing, you're constantly having to adjust to these changing conditions, the wind, the currents, unexpected obstacles. And,
right.
That's a lot like life, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We're always facing these new challenges, having to adapt and adjust our course as we go.
And sometimes those challenges, come in the form of a cousin crashing into your boat in the dark.
Right, exactly.
But,
Yeah.
even in those unexpected moments, there's an opportunity to learn and grow. The grandfather in the story could have been totally discouraged by this whole incident.
Yeah.
But instead, he turns it into, this humorous anecdote, a reminder that even mishaps can become valuable life lessons.
And he hasn't let it, dampen his enthusiasm for boating at all.
Not at all.
He's still out there, enjoying the freedom and the beauty of being on the water.
It's about finding the joy in the journey.
Right.
Even when things get a little rough.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners too, don't be afraid to try new things, even if they seem a little daunting at first.
Right.
Whether it's learning a new language, taking up sailing, or just trying a new swimming stroke, embrace the challenge and see where it takes you.
And remember those conversational phrases that we learned? Take Gip might actually lead to a really memorable adventure.
Exactly.
Or even a funny story to share later.
Just make sure you check that your boat has lights before heading out after dark.
Good advice. Safety first.
Yeah.
But, in all seriousness, this deep dive has been a really good reminder that learning can be fun, engaging, and full of surprises.
It can.
We started with a simple English language learning podcast.
Right.
And we ended up exploring all these nuances of language, culture, and the human experience.
It's proof that knowledge can be found in the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
And that the journey of discovery is often more rewarding than the destination itself.
Well said. So to our listener, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of swimming and boating.
Yeah, we encourage you to put that vocabulary that we talked about and those phrases, into practice. Maybe even share this hilarious boating mishap story with your friends.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe it'll inspire you to embark on your own aquatic adventure.
That would be great.
Until next time, happy sailing.